To an average driver, she looked like just another trucker in need of help. Parked on the shoulder beside her massive Scania, she was hard to drive past without stopping to help. A stunning young woman, alone and looking desperate, was the perfect setup. Until that day. They should have imagined that a cop might approach her, but they didn't. And when he walked up to her on the roadside, her act fell apart. The decoy. She was there again. Same place, same trick. The big grey Scania sat on the shoulder of a nearly deserted highway, hazard lights blinking steadily. To the untrained eye, it looked like a truck broken down, waiting for a tow. The cab door was open, and beside it, standing tall and still, was the driver, a young woman. Cut-off denim shorts, a white tank top that clung to her frame, no heavy makeup, just sun-worn skin and brown hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail. Her look was carefully rehearsed, concern mixed with fatigue, layered with a touch of vulnerability. Her stance was deliberate, sometimes arms folded, sometimes hands on her hips, sometimes pacing a few steps like someone unsure what to do. But the real bait was her eyes, direct, unflinching, at times pleading, at times defiant, a perfect balance between help me and don't trust me. The strategy wasn't new. She and her crew had run this scam dozens of times before, always in the same stretch of road. Remote, with no truck stop for miles, spotty cell service, and silence thick enough to bury cries for help. The kind of place where nothing gets seen, nothing gets heard, and nothing gets answered. The timing was calculated too. Early morning when the sun was still fighting through clouds, and truckers had already been on the road for hours, weariness creeping in. That's when she played her role. Cars sped by, sedans, vans, SUVs, but she didn't care. They weren't the target. She wanted the big rigs, the heavy haulers, the solitary drivers, almost always men. Some slowed down, some just stared and rolled on. That was part of the process. Persistence was key. A lingering glance here, a quick stop there. Enough times one of them would fall for it. But today felt different. She'd been standing there for nearly 2 hours. Not one driver had stopped. Not even the curious ones. She shifted her weight, adjusted her posture, tried again. Arms crossed, waiting, watching the empty asphalt stretch out into nothing. Then, on the horizon, a speck appeared. A car, slowly forming into shape. She narrowed her eyes. A patrol vehicle, unmarked but unmistakable. Her heartbeat quickened, but her face didn't flinch. She couldn't let the mask slip. She stood straighter, arms crossed, gaze turned slightly away as though she hadn't noticed. The cruiser slowed, rolling to a stop a few yards ahead of the Scania. The driver's door opened and then he stepped out, tall, mid-30s, uniformed, sidearm on his belt, radio clipped to his shoulder. No forced smile, no attempt to look friendly. Just calm, steady steps as he walked toward her. For a moment he studied her in silence, longer than she liked. "Need some help, miss?" he asked at last, voice low but clear, eyes flicking briefly to the truck before locking on her again. She forced a small, measured smile, a careful mix of warmth and embarrassment. "Had some trouble with the engine. Nothing major. I already called my insurance. They're on the way." The words came smooth, practiced, lines she'd rehearsed 100 times. But this time it landed differently. He didn't nod and move on, didn't offer a polite smile, didn't buy it. He kept watching, thinking. And in that silence, the trap she had built so carefully began to feel like one closing around her, caught in the lie. The officer didn't move right away. He let the silence work, heavy and uncomfortable. Then, with a steady tone, he asked, "How do you know it's the engine?" The question cut sharper than it sounded. Simple, but deadly. She blinked, caught off guard. A pause, just 1 second too long. "Because it just stopped on me around the bend." He gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod, still not convinced. His eyes didn't leave hers. The silence thickened. She shifted, pulled her phone out, stared at the blank screen, pretending to check something. Useless. He saw right through it. "Pop the hood for me." It wasn't a request. It was courtesy wrapped around an order. She swallowed, forcing herself to breathe evenly, and walked toward the front of the Scania. Her fingers tugged the latch, the hood lifted with a creak. The engine sat exposed, spotless. No leaks, no smoke, no signs of trouble. The officer leaned in with a flashlight, scanning every cable, every hose, every connection. Nothing. Too clean. Too perfect. He straightened, his voice low but pointed. No strange noises? No smoke? No overheating? Her throat tightened. Not that I remember, it just shut off. The line sounded rehearsed, but her tone betrayed her. It was the same excuse she'd given countless times, only now it fell flat. He didn't reply. Instead, he circled the truck with unhurried steps, checking suspension, tires, even rapping his knuckles on the side panels like a man listening for hollow lies. Finally, he leaned into the cab, searching glove compartments, panels, seats. Every move was deliberate, controlled. He wasn't improvising. He was waiting for a slip. When he climbed back out, he leaned against the door, arms crossed. His gaze had sharpened. "What's your insurance company?" The question hit harder than she expected. "What?" she stalled. "Your insurer, the name." She blinked rapidly, trying to buy time. Bradesco. Maybe Santander. One of those." His brow lifted just slightly. "You don't know the insurance on your own truck?" "My husband handles that," she stammered. "I just drive." His eyes stayed locked on her, then evenly. "What time did you call them?" "About 40 minutes ago." 40 minutes ago? Then why isn't there a tow truck here yet?" Her mouth went dry. No answer came. The silence pressed in again, suffocating, and then the phone in her hand vibrated. The sound jolted through the air like a gunshot. She froze, looked down. One word glowed on the screen. "Boss." The officer saw it. In an instant, his hand dropped to his sidearm. He stepped forward, voice hard and commanding. "Answer it. Speakerphone. Don't say a word." Her pulse hammered in her ears. She hesitated, thumb hovering. For a heartbeat, she thought of hanging up. But fear won. She tapped. A man's voice filled the night, gravelly, impatient, dripping with contempt. "So girl, no luck with the first victim today." The words detonated like a bomb. She didn't even have time to react. The officer snatched the phone from her hand and drew his weapon in a single fluid motion. "Down on the ground, now!" The command thundered across the empty road, and for the first time, she broke. The consequences. The officer didn't hesitate. In one swift move, he spun her around, shoved her face to the asphalt and snapped the cuffs on her wrists. She didn't fight, didn't speak, only trembled as the trap she'd set for others finally closed on her. For months, the scam had played out the same way. Lonely truckers lured in by the damsel in distress, stripped of their rigs, their cargo, sometimes their lives. But this time the decoy was the one caught, and the cop wasn't done. Back in his patrol car, she sat in the back seat, shackled and silent, her eyes darting everywhere but his. He didn't call it in. Protocol would alert the wrong ears, and he couldn't risk tipping off the network yet. Long stretches of dirt road swallowed them until cell service disappeared. He wasn't delivering her to a station. He was going deeper. She tried excuses, tried lies, but fear unstitched her mask thread by thread. And when he pressed, she cracked. Names spilled out, locations, details she swore she'd never give, every word recorded on his phone. By dawn, he had enough to start a hunt of his own. Within 2 days, stolen rigs turned up in abandoned ghost warehouses. By the third, he tracked down the so-called boss. By the fourth, the whole crew was in pieces. The decoy had been the entry point, but what he uncovered was bigger. An entire network feeding stolen cargo into businesses, politicians, and even corrupt cops. The kind of machine that doesn't stop when one wheel breaks. And that's when he realized he hadn't ended it. He'd only exposed the edge of something much darker. Weeks later, another call came. Same setup. Another female trucker stranded on the roadside. Another Scania, same make, same model. But this time her eyes were colder. It wasn't over, not even close. The story spread fast, truckers whispering at rest stops, cops trading looks in quiet hallways. Some called him a hero. Others saw him as a problem. He knew one thing. He'd rattled a system that didn't want to be shaken. And if you've stayed with this story until now, you understand what that means. Not every hero wears a cape. Some wear a badge. Some drive alone into the dark, knowing full well what waits in the shadows. So if this kept you on the edge of your seat, do one thing. Drop a comment, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support us. Because this road doesn't end here. The decoy was only the beginning.